Hi everyone, and welcome to the 2022 Hancock Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony. This is the 36th class of the Hancock Sports Hall of Fame, and joining me first tonight is the man who really built the University of Findlay into a national power in track and field, with over 400 All-Americans, 25 national champions. That is Coach Marc Arce, who joins us first tonight. Well, Coach, congratulations on your induction into the Hancock Sports Hall of Fame.
Well, thank you very much.
Well, I just want to start with your life growing up. I believe you told me you were from New York. What were the sports that you were into as a youngster playing in New York growing up?
Basically the same ones that I coached. Track and cross country on Long Island.
Well, I also know one thing I noted was you ran both the Boston and the New York marathons. What were those experiences like?
Oh, they were just a goal I had once I graduated from college, to move up from the specific events that I used to run, be it 800 meters, and then I just got hooked into trying to accomplish those goals of finishing both marathons.
Well, that is quite an accomplishment. And then how did you end up at the University of Findlay as the head coach?
Well, I went to Indiana University, and then I lived for a while near Indianapolis in Noblesville. And once I was there was a job opening at Findlay College at that particular time, it was called. And there was a job opening in regard to track and cross country. And I applied for the job and interviewed with Ron Niekamp, the athletic director at that particular time. And he gave me a chance at an opportunity, and I took it.
And well, I think you made a wise choice. You had quite a successful run at the University of Findlay. What are some of your fondest memories of some of those great teams that you coached?
Well, there's so many. We got on a roll early once we had established a team, and once we got our recruiting going. And then from that point, it was just one instance after another of a quality athlete coming to the University of Findlay for both education purposes and for athletic purposes. And the two just grew together. And from there, they just made their own history.
Now, when you took the job, did you ever imagine that you would have such a successful run for 30 years with, like we mentioned earlier, 400 All-Americans, 25 national champions, quite an impressive resume?
They all happened so quickly in the scheme of things. There wasn't a break at all. We just got on a roll, and as a result, things just started flowing together. And we were fortunate to have quality student athletes to begin with, and then the harder they worked and the more into the event that they were participating in, it just flowed right along.
And Coach, what would your advice be to a young lady or young man out there who has a dream of competing at the collegiate level in track and field? Any advice?
Well, there's a place for everybody. Track and field lends you many opportunities at different levels. So as a result, you have an opportunity regardless of who you are and what you start with. You can't predict the way you're going to end. Because the majority of the student athletes who came to the University of Findlay were not stars in high school. There were some, but the majority were not of that caliber. And they just worked at it and tried harder and harder, and as a result, things just flowed together. And then there was just one champion after another, and the ball just kept rolling.
You did have a great career. I know Findlay holds a special place in your heart. What does it mean to you now to be inducted into the Findlay and Hancock County Sports Hall of Fame?
Oh, it's a great honor. Town's changed a little bit. A lot of buildings aren't there, or new buildings are as we drive around. I begin to look for places that I was familiar with, and then I see new buildings everywhere.
And I'm sure a lot of thanks to all the kids and assistant coaches who were with you all those years.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, Marc, congratulations on your induction. It's very well deserved.
Thank you very much.
That is Marc Arce, the longtime, very successful track and field coach at the University of Findlay and Findlay College. Our next inductee for 2022, a member of the 36th class of the Hancock Sports Hall of Fame, is a young man who had success both as an athlete and as a coach in the area, and that is Arlington's Seth Newlove. Seth, thanks for joining us and congratulations.
Thank you, Chris. I feel very honored to be part of the Hancock County Sports Hall of Fame. I know there's a lot of great athletes have come through this county, and so I feel very honored to be part of it.
I was going to say, growing up in Arlington and being a huge sports fan, I'm sure you watched a lot of the guys who are now in the Hall of Fame. What was life like on a day-to-day basis growing up in Arlington?
So, I mean, my earliest memories is, Arlington football. Brett Price, Chad Price, they're the early ones from a football standpoint, and then watching actually both of those guys play basketball. I just want to be like them, but I had the Arlington sports basketball records hanging in my room at a young age, and Jeff Pepple had the Arlington scoring record at 1,227 points, and I had that highlighted at like about third grade and thought, okay, I want to try to beat that someday.
That was a goal that young, huh?
Yep.
Well, my 30 years of covering sports in the area, I always remember you as I'm one of the most competitive or confident kids, if you will. Where'd that come from?
Yeah, I don't know if I can classify that. I'll talk about it maybe a little bit tonight, but it didn't matter what we were playing or what I was, whether it was cards or ping pong or what. I just always wanted to win, and yeah, I may have been a little too competitive at times, a little too intense, maybe a little too confident or cocky, I guess, depending on your interpretation at times. And I'm not sure where it came from. Some of it's good, some of it's bad. I think some of it led to success. Some of it, isn't always great to have. But whatever it is,
it worked for you.
I'd want to be the one that wins. So.
Well, you had such a great high school career. You were the quarterback 4 straight years. I think you ended up being all-conference defensive back. You're the all-time leading scorer in basketball at Arlington. You were the BBC long jump champion. What are your fondest memories of high school?
Yeah, basketball is, I think, what people think when they think of me, and but some of my greatest memories are football. I mean, just football is like no other. You can't ever do it again once you graduate. And we had some really good teams. We didn't win the league, unfortunately, but I just have such great memories with Coach Rossman, Coach Leonard. They just made it fun, and that's what I remember from that. And I had Coach Rogers, who unfortunately isn't here anymore, with basketball, and I realize it's one of those deals. It's kind of like as a kid, you realize later in life how great your dad was, right? How important it was, and I realized how great of a coach he was after the fact, and I learned so much from him that I took into coaching, later on in life, and so just some great memories. But I mean, the whole night, everything is about relationships. You realize when you reflect, it's not about, really what you accomplished, but it's about the relationships you made along the way.
Now, Seth, how did you end up at Defiance, and what are some of your memories? I know you were a 1,000-point scorer over there as well. Yeah,
I got recruited by a lot of Division III schools, not a lot of money thrown at me or scholarships, but Defiance, I thought I was going to go to Taylor University. Something fell through, and Defiance, I had a visit scheduled there the next day after that fell through, and it just worked out great. Such great friendships and players. We end up, the first year we weren't very good there, and then we got better and better, and I mean we were really good by my junior and senior year at Defiance. And a lot of my friends will be here tonight from Defiance, and it was amazing. We played an up-tempo style, which suited me, which is what I wanted to do as a coach as well. And it was just a lot of fun at Defiance.
And then, of course, you came back home, work at Marathon, of course, all these years, but also were able to go back to your alma mater and coach, and you've coached the boys and the girls. And, of course, everyone will remember that great run in 2012, a state championship. Take us back to that year.
Yeah, so I mean, 2012 was the pinnacle. I mean, amazing. You know, as any coach, you want to win a state title. You want to go to state, let alone win it. It was just amazing. And I guess what I'd go back to is I took the job when the girls that won it were freshmen. You know, and it was a building process, and we had so many good players. The year before, we might even been better. I mean, we were undefeated in the regular season and lost in the regionals. But all those players that led up to that, you know, I always feel bad for them, but they should get a state title ring as well, because, you know, they led to that. But obviously we had the Amelia Record, Olivia Record, Jessica Hunter, you know, key players on that state title team. But it was such a team effort, especially when we got to state. You know, we had girls in the state final game that led us in scoring that had never led us in scoring the whole year. So it was such a team effort. They played amazing as a team, amazing defense. You know, my assistant coaches were amazing. Jimmy Nicholson, who's the girls' coach now, and Tom Bell. I mean, they had to like convince me that we could win it. And the more film we watch, it's like, yeah, I think we can win this thing. And it just, that year was amazing. You know, the boys making it to state that year as well. The whole town of Arlington for about 6 weeks was just amazing.
That was a great run, a great year. I remember it well. And just finally, Seth, what does it mean to you to be inducted into the Hancock Sports Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen so many great athletes go through not only Arlington but the county, and you know, I feel honored. You know, I think, you know, mine. You know, people have asked me, are you getting in because you're a player, or you know, as an athlete or a coach? And you know, I was like, I don't know, but I feel really. It feels great to be here and just be a part of it. And you know, I'll always be a part of Arlington forever. And I know there's a lot of Arlington athletes that have been part of it. You know, getting up to this point, and yeah, it means a lot to me and my family.
Well, it certainly is well-deserved. Congratulations.
Thank you, Chris.
All right, Seth Newlove, another member of the class of 2022 for the Hancock Sports Hall of Fame. Also being inducted into the class of 2022 for the Hancock Sports Hall of Fame is former Liberty-Benton standout Katie Butler. And well, Katie, congratulations first of all on being inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Thank you, thank you.
And quite a special honor for you, because you are a member of the first family of the Hall of Fame as it stands right now. You're the fourth member of your family to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Of course, your dad, Dean, helped build Liberty-Benton into the great athletic program it is now. And as a radio guy, he was one of the best athletic directors by far to work with in my career. And then, of course, big brother Andy wasn't too bad.
Not too bad.
Helped the Eagles win a state championship in basketball, went on and played some professional baseball. Older sister Jana was a great three-sport athlete as well, played in college, as did you. So just talk about what it means to be the fourth member of your family to go into the Hall of Fame.
It's so special. I mean, growing up, it was, you know, sports were all I knew. I grew up in gyms. We didn't take family vacations. It was wherever my brother was playing baseball that summer, or wherever my sister was playing in an AAU tournament. And so, I mean, it's quite an honor. Anytime that our family is recognized for something like that, it means so much to us. But yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to think that, I don't know, you know, how we've been so successful in athletics, but it means a lot to us.
Well, with all those great athletes growing up in the house, how competitive was it to be a Butler?
Oh my goodness. The competitiveness level of our family is off the charts. I mean, every single one of us, we will argue about who is the better anything. I mean, who's the better? I'm the number one aunt. Ask my nieces and nephews. Like, I'm the favorite. Like, or you know, who how to swim or do dives off of, like, anything that we can have a competition around, we absolutely will. So I just knew, like, growing up, I say it all the time, that my siblings were setting records and I wanted to be the one to break them. And so, like I owe so much of my success to my siblings and my parents as well. So
of course, now you're the fourth member, so you'll have the final say. Who was the best athlete in the Butler family?
I like to say it was me. I did the most. I played the most sports. I was the 3-sport athlete in the family. No one else was. So I like to say it was me, but it's a tough one. I don't know. I think a lot of people will probably still say it was my brother, but I don't know. I like to say it was me.
Well, you were all pretty good. So, well, let's talk about your days at Liberty-Benton. You were Player of the Year in volleyball. You were, of course, the Player of the Year in basketball, and you were all-state in the discus and track. You still hold the all-time scoring record, 1,800 points at Liberty-Benton. Plus, I think you're still #1 in rebounding and block shots. So what are your fondest memories of playing for the Eagles?
Oh, I have so many. I was thinking about it today, like that, the records, they were all great, but the amount of fun that I had, like playing with my friends and those big games where we upset people that we weren't expected to upset. Like, I honestly think those are things that stick out more to me than the records that I had. And just, how far we went in the tournament one year when we weren't expected to do much at all. And so, and then just, I was very lucky and blessed to play in front of my family. My family was all local. My siblings still came back and supported me even when they were off at college or, living away. And so, and just my parents, they were the most supportive parents. They were at every single game, even with having, my sister was in college at the time at Miami playing basketball. And, I think to this day, they only missed, I think my dad might've missed one game. Like he was anticipating to miss one of my games my senior year. And I ended up getting sick and didn't play in that game. Like I had the flu and I didn't play. And so I think he saw every single one of my games. Same thing with my mom. So, those are my fondest memories, just being able to be with my friends and have fun and win some games. So,
of course, you were, success in all those sports, but was basketball your first love?
It was, yeah. Growing up, it was one of those things that I always knew that I wanted to play a sport in college. And I felt like it was always going to be basketball. And so, but I think that developed my love for the other sports because basketball was the one that I focused so much on that I was able to, I loved playing volleyball. I loved volleyball so much. And then track was like my social sport. I'm a social butterfly. I can talk to anyone. And so track was the one that I loved being, like I had a lot of friends at other different schools around the conference. And so it was so fun to see them and compete with them. And, but basketball was always my first love. I spent the most time on it. But
like so many of the inductees into the Hall of Fame, most all of them played multiple sports in high school. I know today there's that push that kids want to specialize, but they're missing out on so much.
They're missing out on so much. I have this conversation with my sister and brother-in-law all the time that I wish kids were able to play, but I think a lot of it comes from the coaches. They have a lot of expectations, and I get it. Things are a lot different now than they were. I'm very old now, 20 years ago, but it does. I feel like they do miss out on so much because, like I said, I knew that I was always going to play basketball in college, but I still worked just as hard at my other sports, and it also it taught me a lot of things, a lot more things than just focusing on one. And so I wish that they'd get out there and do more, but because there's more than just the one sport to focus on. So.
Of course, you initially went to Dayton and then transferred to Northern Kentucky. So just talk about how that came about, and then tell us about some fond memories of your college experience.
Oh yes, I loved college. So I committed to UD, and then unfortunately, before my freshman year started, my coaches were forced to resign. So the coaches that recruited me, I never actually got to play for them at UD, and so I was there. I went to UD for 2 years, and it just, I loved the school. The basketball part of it wasn't the greatest. So I transferred to Northern Kentucky, and I went to Northern Kentucky because one of the assistant coaches there, he used to be an assistant coach at the University of Findlay for the women's team. So my dad knew him really well, and he kept asking my dad to bring me down and to Northern Kentucky. And then they had a legendary coach, Nancy Winstall. She had won so many games, a couple national championships. And so I went there and truly had, my love of basketball was renewed at that school. I had the best 2 years. I would have loved to have gone there all 4 years because I just had the best time, made the best of friends. Teammates it was just an incredible experience for me. And we won a lot of games, so that's always fun because we didn't win a lot at UD, and that was not so fun. I think we lost more games my freshman year of college than I lost in my entire career in all of my sports combined. But yeah, so it was, I still to this day am the best of friends with my teammates. We are very close. We see each other very frequently. So it was great. It was, I just had the greatest time.
And just finally, Katie, just your thoughts on you personally being inducted into the Hall of Fame. So many great athletes from all over Hancock County. What does it mean to Katie Butler?
Oh my goodness. It means so much to me because I see the talent that has come out of Hancock County, and I am humbled to be included in that. And, I like to say I was just a girl that was tall and got lucky, but, I worked hard all the time and practiced all the time. I had a dad that could let me into a gym anytime I wanted, and that was great. But it truly means so much because sports has been such a big part of our lives, and it just to be recognized for those achievements and the hard work that I did put in means a lot. So.
Right. Well, again, congratulations. Very well deserved.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
And that is Katie Butler, another inductee into the Hancock Sports Hall of Fame for 2022. Our next inductee for the 36th class of the Hancock Sports Hall of Fame is a former Findlay Trojan and Toledo Rocket, Rick Maroney, who was a three-sport standout at Findlay, then went on to a great career pitching for the Toledo Rockets. And Rick joins us now. Rick, congratulations and thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Well, Rick, of course, you grew up a Findlay boy, so tell us what was life like in the sandlots and on the streets of Findlay growing up?
We played sports a lot on the streets and in the sandlots, and memories of Findlay sports really started in junior high. Junior high back then was 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, and we had Glenwood Central and Donnell, and it was a battle. We had a lot of good competition, and it kind of led into Findlay having some teammates alongside of us that we had competed against for so many years. But we mentioned, John Kidd and Jim Geyer and Bill Beach, and then from Glenwood, Ron Neds and Rick Acord and Rick Hutton. A lot of good athletes came up through Findlay, and then Donnell, Tim Federici, Jeff Dean. Just a lot of. And we went at it for 3 years, and then we became buddies, in high school, and had some really good teams. Yeah,
so growing up in the early 70s, you saw some just absolutely phenomenal Findlay athletes to look up to and sort of try to be like those guys.
We sure did, yeah. A lot of great athletes came before us. I was talking to Jim Ruckey beforehand, and you look at that list of inductees, and a lot of great athletes came through Findlay, and not only basketball, which seems to have been kind of a standout sport for Findlay, but certainly other sports as well.
Now, you were a receiver on the football team and one of the captains, and I believe you told me earlier that Toledo talked to you about coming up there and playing football. What are some of your memories of playing football for Bill Jones and the Trojans?
Well, it's interesting. Football was probably, I don't know, I wouldn't say my least favorite, but I was probably not as great at football as I was maybe some of the other sports. And it probably had to do with I didn't like contact, so playing football and not liking contact was not a great combination. But I remember some of the practices the coaches would get after me, to get in there. But anyways, it was fun. Certainly some great athletes that I came up with. John Kidd ended up being playing in the NFL. Bill Beach, Jim Geyer. Had just a great time. Would have loved to have played both ways, but Bill liked to have kind of specialized offense and defense. But football was a lot of fun, but my grandkids can't believe I actually played football.
Right. And then basketball, you got to play for two great guys in Coach Stozik and, of course, Coach Renz. And, there's so many great basketball players who have come through the ranks at Findlay High. You were on a team that made the regional. And I think you were telling me you played against Art Schleister in the regionals down there in Columbus, or I'm not sure where that game was at.
It was in Columbus.
It was in Columbus. So what are your fondest memories of suiting up for the blue and gold on the basketball court?
Probably my fondest memories was my sophomore year. Terry Schlinker and I came in, and we were on the JV team, and Jim Barron was coaching the JV, and he and Chuck Rogers, I told you, was kind of helping out as well, and they kind of egged us on to really get after the varsity. So we had some real scraps with the varsity team early on, and it really led to Terry and I joining the varsity team about midway through the season, and we both ended up starting for them and started in the in the tournament games. And so, and John Stozic, I like to say John was obviously a super nice guy, very personable, very nice until he wasn't. And he would get after you on the court and in the locker room. And so I really enjoyed basketball. There's kind of an intimacy with the court and the teammates and the practices, kind of getting after it maybe more than the other two sports.
Then, of course, you did pretty well on the ball diamond as well. I think you're still the career record holder for ERA at 1.5, which is pretty stingy. What are your memories of playing ball for the Trojans?
I didn't even know that, so hard to believe that still stands. But well, baseball was kind of the sport I started early on with, from little leagues in Findlay all the way up through, and obviously into college. And Woody Curlis was my coach in my sophomore year, and then Skip Wilczynski my last 2 years. And we had some really good teams. And Tim Federici was my battery mate, and Tim and I, when he would pitch, I would catch, and when I would pitch, he'd catch. And he was a hell of a catcher. So Tim's still a good friend today. But love baseball at Findlay, and I think I told you that just so happened I wasn't sure what I was going to do in college, and Stan Sanders, a coach at Toledo, came to see another guy play when we were playing Fremont Ross, and I happened to pitch a decent game. And so he talked to me and offered me a scholarship to go to Toledo, and I didn't really have much else on the table, so I said, yeah, sure.
Okay, well, that was going to be my next question, but that seems to happen quite a lot, where a coach comes to scout one kid and another kid stands out and he ends up going after that guy. So what are your memories? I know you were an all-MAC pitcher. What are your memories of pitching for the Rockets?
It was like a fraternity. I mean, it kept us busy full time, even though it's not a big time Big Ten football sport. I mean, it was year round. Commitment. We even played summer ball, to keep us sharp. So really enjoyed baseball, and some of the guys that I played with are still great friends today. They were in my wedding, still going golf trips with them. Stan Sanders was a great coach. We had we had a lot of fun. It was a great way to kind of go through college and keep me out of trouble when I wasn't studying.
And you must have liked it, because you've stayed in Toledo ever since.
I have, yeah. Actually met my a professor at University of Toledo that ended up offering me a position with a business that he had on the side, and I've been there for coming up on 39 years now.
All right. Well, Rick, certainly well-deserved. Congratulations on your induction. What does it mean to you to be inducted into your hometown Sports Hall of Fame?
Well, I'm humbled. I mean, when I look at the list of inductees, it is pretty humbling. Some great athletes, much better athletes than I was, but I'm humbled and honored to be a part of it.
All right, well, it is well-deserved. Congratulations.
All right, thank you, Chris.
All right, and that is former Findlay Trojan and Toledo Rocket, Rick Maroney. Our next inductee for the 36th class of the Hancock Sports Hall of Fame is Tom Meyer, who had a great career as an athlete at Cory-Rawson High School, went on to play at Dartmouth in the Ivy League football, and then came back and had a great career as a coach and athletic director at his alma mater, Cory-Rawson. So we're joined by Tom Meyer. Tom, thanks for joining us, and congratulations on your induction into the Hancock Sports Hall of Fame.
Thank you. I tell you, it's quite an honor. It really is.
Of course, you grew up back in the heyday of Cory-Rawson sports, that's for sure. Such great success, late 50s, 60s. What was life like on a day-to-day basis for you growing up out there in Rawson, Mount Cory?
I had two older brothers who also played football, and they both were on championship teams. They both were I think both of them were undefeated, so I had to live up to the same thing. And we did. We did a great job. Yeah,
you, in fact, actually outdid them probably. You were on that 68 unbeaten and unscored upon team. That's just, when you think about that today, that's just unbelievable. Talk about that year.
Well, I'll tell you what, when it happened, I thought that was probably be the pinnacle of my life. That just was so exciting, because halfway through the season, still unscored upon, and it's in the back of your mind. And I played defensive end, and nobody's going to get around me, And the nice part was we had backs behind me that if I got people out of the way, they would get the guy. So we just really worked great together. Linebackers, backs, ends, interior, everything worked great.
Yeah, so many great players, and of course the legendary Spike Berry as your coach.
Yeah, well, I had the honor to actually not only play with him, but I coached for him. He hired me later on when I had left Van Buren and came to Cory-Rawson, was basically because he wanted me to come over and coach with him.
And of course, you went on to Dartmouth to play football. How did you end up there, playing in the Ivy League?
Well, you got to have good grades to get in. And I think they recruit players that have good grades. And boy, when I saw that as an opportunity, I jumped at it. They recruited me, and we had some nice teams. In fact, my claim to fame is I tackled Ed Marinero.
Okay, the old
Viking.
Viking.
Because he played for Cornell.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and when we played them, I got in, and I got to get a tackle on.
Well, yeah. Every time you watched them on TV or something, you probably say, "Hey, I tackled that
I
guy
do,
once
exactly.
upon a time."
I do that. Yeah.
And then what drove you to come back to? Well, I think you started at Van Loo, maybe Van Buren, ended up back at your
the Cory-Rawson or back home.
Right.
Because,
well, both.
Yeah, really. When I left to go to Dartmouth, I thought, well, my career is going to go other places. But there was a sweet little girl back home that my hometown honey that I ended up marrying, and she had another year at Bowling Green, Chris, and I came back and I thought, well, I'll teach for a year while Chris is, finishing her degree, and then I'll worry about my career someplace else. And I got the job at Van Loo, and I just fell in love with teaching and with coaching, so stayed.
And then now, how did you? I get you coach a lot of different sports, but had most success at track and field. Is that something that you always loved?
Oh yeah. I had success at it as an athlete, and then I coached track at Van Loo, and then at Van Buren I did the same thing. I coached with Stan Wise, who was a great coach in his own right. Van Buren's had some good teams, and I really liked that. But then I had 4 kids, and I stopped coaching for a few years while they were toddlers. Once they got into school, then I went back to coaching. I didn't coach football or anything for a while because I had help at home. When I got back into it, I was the AD, so I hired myself as the head track coach. I coached, I think, as an assistant with Steve Sutter, and started coaching, and I got in at the right time because Janet Dirth was a sophomore.
Right, you did get in.
I got in at the right time.
Well, of course, I know, you're thrilled to go in, but I'm sure you're thrilled that a couple of your teams are going in. The 97 and 98 team, 97 won the state championship, 98 was runner-up. Going into those years, did you have any inclination that you had a team that was going to be that good?
I knew we'd be good in our realm, but to get down to state and to win it, I knew we'd have, Janet could get down there, but she was on three relays, so that brought more kids, and those girls were pretty good because they did themselves pretty well too in individual events. So to be honest with you, that 97 team, I had no clue that we would win it. You don't think about it, but we scored 38 points and won. And
now, did you win it on the final event?
Yeah. Yeah, we
had
to win, and another team had to not get above 3rd place, and we did. It worked. I mean, it's just an accident, and how track and field particularly. There's so many different events that I think I said something to somebody. We scored 38 points in 97 and won, and we scored 40 points in 98 and got second. That's just the way it works sometimes, you got stronger teams that'll come in. So, yeah, I didn't expect to win, but the next year in 98, I thought we had a good chance, and we did.
Well, you mentioned Janet Dirth, of course, another Hall of Famer. That year she won the 200 and was second in the 100, and then anchored a couple of relays as well.
Relays that won, yeah.
She obviously was a superstar athlete, but obviously there were a lot of great girls at that time.
Oh, they had to have been, yeah. Especially with relays, you can't win with one girl. Although Sarah DeWolf did, she won 4 events, not for us, for another school. But no, she was the base for us. But we had, quite a few good girls. So yeah, it took a team.
And what does it mean to you to be amongst some of the best athletes that Cory-Rawson ever had? Because as we said, you go back to several decades ago, it was a powerhouse.
Yeah, and believe me, there were an awful lot of good athletes back then, and still going through. They just don't have the numbers now. But it means a lot to be recognized. You know, I've seen, you know, these Hall of Famers come in, and man, Seth Newlove, you know, and some of the other ones that are in now, great athletes, and they've got great resumes, and to be counted among them is a real honor. It's humbling, it really is.
In Hancock County, not just, you know, growing up in Cory-Rawson, but it's such a, like, unlike a lot of leagues, it's such a brotherhood or sisterhood, if you will, where everybody knows everybody and gets along, but the competition is great, so that makes it even more special, I would think, for you. Having also coached at Van Loo and Van Buren as well as Cory-Rawson, so yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. The communities, all of them. Van Loo, great community, Van Buren, Cory-Rawson, and I've got, you know, over the years, you know, people from every school, and it's a great school system, great bunch of schools, so proud to be part of it.
Again, congratulations.
Thank you.
And that is Tom Meyer, a former Cory-Rawson standout, went on to Dartmouth and had a great career in the Ivy League, and then came back and did a wonderful job with the Cory-Rawson track and field teams and as an athletic director for many years. Another one of the inductees for the 36th class of the Hancock Sports Hall of Fame. Congratulations once again to the 2022 class of the Hancock Sports Hall of Fame. Seth Newlove, Tom Meyer, Rick Maroney, Marc Arce, Katie Butler, and of course the 97 and 98 girls track teams out at Cory-Rawson. And again, if you'd like to support the Hancock Sports Hall of Fame, you can do that by supporting Tony's Restaurant on 224 West in Findlay, where the Hancock Sports Hall of Fame plaques are all hanging of all the inductees over the years, as well as lots of memorabilia from all of these great athletes. And again, if you have a former athlete or coach that you would like to nominate for the Hancock Sports Hall of Fame, you can do that easily by going to the Hancock Sports Hall of Fame website, and you'll find the nomination form there. Again, congrats to the 36th class of the Hancock Sports Hall of Fame, and I'm Chris Miller.